Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our DAI conference. And today's session, we're going to focus on mastering features you thought you knew about Canvas. Here we go. These are our presenters for you today.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tony Schiarillo, and I am the Academic Innovation Systems Analyst.
I am Sharron DeRosier. I am a senior instructional consultant with the Rothwell Center for Teaching and Learning.
I am your facilitator and presenter, Jorge Azucar, and I'm an instructional technologist. Let's get started. So today's objectives, we're going to focus on Canvas SpeedGrader, specifically with video feedback submission. Then we're going to set up notification preferences, especially for assignment comments. Then we're going to move to grading group assignments. And we're going to finish off the presentation with manage assignments extensions and moderation. Tony, can you please take it away with the Canvas SpeedGrader and video feedback, please?
Yes, Jorge, thank you. So as Jorge said, I'm going to talk about SpeedGrader video feedback. And my three main points I'm going to discuss today are the benefits of video feedback, why this is a powerful tool, a step-by-step guide so that way you are empowered to be able to leave these video feedback submissions, and then also strategies for leaving impactful feedback that's going to allow your students to receive, I guess, more impactful feedback. So to dive right in, the first thing we're going to talk about are the benefits, and there's a number of them, right? First and foremost, it provides a personal connection. The video feedback puts a face and a voice to the instructor, and it helps build rapport. You can see kind of how they carry them, how you carry yourself, and just how you talk, right? The video feedback will also provide tone clarity. It's going to prevent misinterpretation of your written tone. You know, sometimes the student doesn't know you personally. Actually, a lot of times they won't. So they're not going to understand exactly how you're meaning to come off as, right? But in the video feedback will help figure out if you're being more encouraging versus being more critical of the student's work. Additionally, the video feedback will improve student understanding. The visual and verbal explanations will help clarify some of the complex feedback that you may give, right? Especially if some of this assignments are, a 10-page research paper and you're providing a bunch of feedback and notes, the visual and verbal explanations will help clarify all of that. That way the student understands exactly what it is you're trying to say. Accessibility will also allow for students to pause, rewatch, and process the feedback at their own pace. They can rewind it to go back to a certain point in case they want to really understand what it is that you're trying to tell them. And lastly, of the benefits here, it's a motivation booster, right? Students will feel seen and valued when they're receiving these personalized messages. For myself, I'm a student. Whenever I have an instructor who's just leaving copy and pasted messages, I don't really feel like that's valuable versus if I see an instructor who's taking the time out of their day to record a quick 2 to 5 minute video explaining exactly what it is the feedback they're trying to give. I feel a lot more valued about that. So now that I've talked about the benefits, I'm going to go ahead and talk about how you can leave video feedback. So on that left side picture, this is in the SpeedGrader interface, which I'm sure you're used to. And in the top right corner of that, you're going to see a little drop down. And when you click on that, you'll see the list of students. Now go ahead and select which student you want to leave the video feedback for. Once you do so, on the right picture, you will see the assignment comments, which again, I'm sure you're used to seeing this before. Now, what I want to highlight is in that bottom right-hand corner, you'll see a red box around a camera icon, and it's also flagged with a little new to the right of it, which this is where you would go to record your video feedback. Clicking on that button will open up the Studio Capture interface, which is displayed in that top left picture. And you'll have two tabs. The first tab is Record Media, which is probably what you're going to be seeing the most, where you get to record your video feedback. And that second tab is to upload media in case you've already recorded some for that student. Once you're ready to record, you'll go ahead and hit start recording in that bottom right-hand corner. Now, if we transition to the right image, this is what you're going to see after you hit start recording. You'll have three tabs. You'll have Chrome tab, window, or the entire screen. And the recommendation here is to record the Chrome tab and select the tab that has SpeedGrader open, or the student's where the student's assignment is, right? And you'll see the preview of what the recording will look like on the right, which is notified by the number 3. And then under that, you'll see also Share tab audio. This is helpful for presentations where students are recording, right? So you can kind of say, in this moment, you said this, and then you can play it maybe, and then provide feedback on what they said. And then in that bottom right-hand corner with the number 5 is where you'll go ahead and hit share, and that's going to begin your recording. Now in that bottom image, you will see the timestamp of how long the video is. You'll also have options for pausing in case you want to take a break or just pause in between transitions. And then the third button there is finish for when you are all done and wrapped up with your video feedback. Now let's talk about how we can make this video feedback more engaging. And there's a couple of different ways you could do this. And first and foremost, you can start by using the student's name. You want to directly address them, and because this will help enhance that personalization that I was talking about previously. Next, you're going to want to be very specific. You're going to highlight their strengths and areas of improvement and provide examples. That way you can kind of help bolster the feedback that you're trying to give. It'll be more impactful for the student to really understand what you're trying to say and then show the example so they can kind of pair it together. You also want to keep your recordings concise. You know, I said about maybe 2 to 5 minutes. This will help provide enough time for clarity about what your feedback is, but also respects the student's time and your time. Because if you leave something that's 10 minutes long, the student might see that as too long and won't watch it. And we don't want to make sure that you're wasting your time, right? Also, you want to go over, or you want to use positive framing. You want to encourage the student's growth and use a constructive tone, right? You don't want to be too negative because then it can be perceived wrong. You're also going to want to have an authentic delivery. This is going to be really important. You know, speak naturally and express your genuine interest in their progress throughout the course. Because as an instructor, you want your students to grow. And of course, the student also wants to learn. So if you use that authentic delivery, they'll feel more valued, as I mentioned previously, and actually want to grow and use the feedback that you're providing. And now Jorge is going to talk about notification preferences.
Thank you so much, Tony. We're going to briefly go over how to set up your notifications. Sometimes there are certain notifications that you're not aware that are available for you. And that's why we're going to show you how to customize these notifications. And then Sharon's going to give us some feedback on what are some of the recommendations of notifications that should be enabled. In order to, uh, first of all, get to your notifications, it's recommended to click on your profile. Once you select your profile, you will get this little menu on the side, and it's at the very top. You are going to select notifications, and then it is up to you. It gives you the choice if you want to just do it within that course, or do you want to do your entire account? It really depends. If you tend to teach a lot of different courses, then it's recommended just to do it specific for that particular course. Once you've selected which account, whether it's the course or your entire account, then you're going to get this menu. And this is interesting because you can scroll up and down and you will see that you have different types of notifications. The little bell indicates that you want to be notified immediately. Then when you see where it has the little daily summary. You will get that notification at the end of the day. You can have the where it has the little calendar where it says your weekly summary. And then you have the little bell with the little slash through it. That means the notification is off. So here is a perfect example that the course content right now is not, the notification is off. One of the interesting notifications that by default is turned off is all submissions. This is an interesting one because this is only for the instructor, and basically you'll get if a student has given some notification, it will notify you when a student has you made a comment and the student decides to resubmit it per your suggestion. You will have to enable this in order for you to get that notification. So that is an important one, especially if you want to make sure that you want the student, you'll be able to see the resubmission of a student's assignment. You will need to go in and make sure that you change this and enable it to notify immediately. Now Sharon is going to give us some recommendations on what does RCTLD recommends to keep enabled. Sharon?
Hi, thank you, Jorge. So these notifications are what we recommend for instructors. So you can have your own or your own preferences for what you recommend to your students. These actually work well for students as well, but as far as announcements go, we do recommend that you have notifications set to daily or right away. The right away really is the recommendation. Then you'll get an email as soon as an announcement is posted. That way, if you post an announcement, your students will get an email with that announcement. If we post an announcement to the faculty resource site, then you get an email with those important updates as well. An invitation to a course, you want those invitations right away. A daily notifications of your discussion posts. That way you have a daily record of what was posted to the discussions. You don't want really to set that to right away because then that would become overwhelming when students are posting to those discussions. You would get a lot of emails and it would overwhelm your email box. When you're added to a conversation, your conversation message, those two kind of go hand in hand. Those are your Canvas inbox messages. Um, it's good to get an email notification of that because sometimes you won't see those notifications over in the left of your Canvas. Or if you're not logging into Canvas and don't see them, it's good to know when a student has emailed you. And last but not least, and this one I think is definitely the most important, is the submission comments. If you give students assignment submission comments and then they reply to them, you want to know when a student has responded to your feedback. So you want to have those set to right away so that you know when a student has responded and you can check it and respond back if necessary. And now we are on to group setup.
Thank you, Sharon. So we're going to look at, please keep in mind, depending on how your IFI it is instructed you to set up your groups or the way the groups are set up, we're going to focus primarily on grading group assignments. Depending on, once again, how the IFI is giving instruction, there are two ways to actually grade the group assignments. The first and foremost, very similar to the instructions that Tony mentioned earlier, when you open up the groups and you are going to have a little drop-down box where it's going to, of course, right now for generic purposes, it just says group one, depending on how the groups were set up or naming conventions were used and who was put in those groups. This is looking at assigning the same grade for the entire group. So you would select your group, and then as you can see, this is going to be the grade that is going to be given to every member of that group. So that means whatever grade you select, or I should say you type in, and whatever comment you decide, all the comments are sent to the entire group. So that would be pretty much giving the assignment to all of the students that are in that one particular group. You want to go to the next group, you go up to the top right corner again, select your next group, give the grade that the students have earned as a group. And of course, it's recommended to always give feedback to the students, making sure that you add a comment. Giving specific comments like Tony recommended earlier is always recommended. But then you also have the ability, depending on, once again, how the group was created, this would be giving the different grades to an individual student. What occurs is on the top right-hand corner again, you would have your drop down for your student. You select the student and you will give that grade to that particular student, always encouraging you to add a comment giving specific feedback. And now you have, technically speaking, uh, you have, and it would be recommended, especially if you're giving the comment to that particular student, it would make sense to send a specific comment to a specific student, and then you select the submit button to give that feedback and that grade to the student. What we're going to do now is we're going to transition over now, and Tony is going to help us out, and he's going to give us a little bit of suggestions on extensions and moderation. Tony?
Thank you, Jorge. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about assignment extensions and quiz moderations. So first, I'm going to talk about how to moderate quizzes. Then I'm going to go over handling assignment extensions and then some best practices for both afterward. So the first thing here is talking about moderating quizzes. So why would you want to moderate a quiz? Well, moderating a quiz allows you to give extra time to a student or extra attempts if something were to happen. And you can adjust this access based on each individual student, based on what they need, or maybe if there's any kind of technology issues, whatever the case may be, or maybe just an accessibility thing, which is very, very important. So for a how-to guide on how to do this, we're going to go in order of those images from top to bottom. So in that first image, you will see on the right-hand side a red box around a button called Moderate this quiz. So if you were to click on that, you will get a pop-up window, which is that second image there, where it's titled Moderate Quiz. So in order from left to right, those columns, you have the student's name. You also have their attempt and how many attempts they've had. You will have the time and how long they finished it in, how many attempts they have left. So if normally there's only 2 attempts, maybe there's only 1 attempt, so you'll see 1 or 0 normally in that column. The second to last column there is the student's score, so the grade that they received on that quiz. And the last column, which is probably the most important one for this purpose, is the edit column, right? So if you were to click onto one of those pencil icons in the last column there, this is where you're going to be granting the extra time or extra attempts. So in that last image, I want you to click on that pencil icon, you'll get another pop-up window that says student extension. And this is why I mentioned this is particular to that individual student. So let's say they lost power or there's just an accommodation that needs to be granted. You can, so again, from top to bottom, you can grant an extra attempt. So it'll tell you how many attempts they get in the subtext. So for this purpose, it says they get 2 attempts already. So if you want to grant an extra 1 or 2 to double it, you can. That second one, which is the extra time, again, in the subtext, it'll tell you how long they have on the assignment. This is really helpful so you don't have to kind of guess or remember, you have to keep going back and forth. So if they have 10 minutes now and you want to double that time, you can grant it for 20 minutes, or you can add however much time you'd like. And then that last checkbox, which is to manually unlock the quiz for the next attempt. This just makes it so that in case the due dates have passed, because we have that weekly cadence, once a due date has passed and you still want the student to be able to take it, you can check that box and it will unlock the quiz for the student. And then probably the most important button on this page is to click save. I find myself not clicking that from time to time and losing all my progress. So highly recommend you press save if you'd like to grant the student extension. So now let's talk about how we can do basically the same thing on an assignment, such as a discussion or an essay, anything that's basically not a quiz. So once you are in the assignment, you'll click Edit. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see the Assign To section, which is in that left-hand picture. Now, normally you'll see in the Assign To section says everyone. Just didn't get a good image here, but it'll normally say everyone and it has your typical due date times, and then if you have the available to as well. And we're really going to focus on that bottom button, which is boxed in red again, where it says plus Assign To. Clicking on that will add an additional Assign Access section, which is shown on the right. And in order, again, we'll go to number 1, which is the Assign To. So this is where you will select what student or students you would like to have extra time on. For the second bullet there, this is where you'll put the extended due date. So normally we'll do like a week out, or if you want to do a couple days, it's really up to you as the instructor. And then if this is for an exam extension, you will have the ability to adjust those availability dates in case you really only want the student to have, 2 days extra, or maybe 1 day, or however long you want. This is where you get to choose how long it'll be available extra for that student. And if you do want to add more than one extension, but different number of due dates, you can always click that plus Assign To bulleted by number 4 in case you want to assign multiple extensions for whatever reason. As we know, life happens. So I've talked about what extensions and moderations are and how to do it for both quizzes and assignments. And now I'd like to talk about some best practices, because sometimes you never really know what to do in some instances, right? Like I said, life happens. So first, you're going to make sure you set a clear policy. Communicate your extension and moderation guidelines, possibly in the syllabus or on the assignment page. You can even put it in the online office in case you want to put your policy in there as well, or your information about instructors, where you have like your bio and such. You can also put your policy there. You're also going to want to use consistent language. So when you're talking about the extension period, you want to use terms like, grace period, late policy, extension request, and you want to make sure that you're using that consistently. That way the language is the same and it doesn't confuse students, because maybe they'll get the wrong idea and it'll kind of just create a mini mess that no one wants to clean up. You're also going to want to build in buffer time. So, understand that deadlines, while they are strict, they also need a little bit of flexibility. Like I said, life happens. And when you're granting these extensions, you want to be a little bit reasonable, right? If the student's reaching out on Monday and you say, sure, I'll give you an extension, but it's due, Monday at 5 p.m., that may not be doable for some student schedules. Offer a little bit of flexibility there. Maybe give them an entire extra day rather than just a few extra hours. Unless they can really knock it out in that time, then good for them. But just be a little flexible. You're also going to communicate early and often. Encourage your students to reach out before deadlines whenever possible. Like I said, you don't want students reaching out on Monday to get an extra day, and then they really don't have that full day. You want them to feel like they are empowered to talk about these things before they happen. That way you can be, as flexible as possible and as understanding as possible. And lastly, you're going to want to document these requests. Keep a record of the extension moderations and resolutions. Have them in writing. That way the expectations are clear. This can either be in email, Canvas comments, the Canvas inbox, or whatever method of communication. I just highly recommended that it is documented and written down. That way those expectations are understood and it doesn't get lost in the weeds. And that is everything that I have to talk about for assignment extensions and moderation. Jorge?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tony, for giving the best practices. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. I would especially like to thank our facilitators today, Sharon and Tony, for sharing all these tricks that sometimes they're really more tips. I'm pretty sure you knew about them. We're just doing a little reminder. If by chance there was something that we might not have covered, or you might have a little bit of a more of a you want a little more information, please reach out to us. We have our emails showcased, and we want to thank you for joining us today. Thank you so much, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you. Farewell. Bye bye.